Jnana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanamitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyigo Shri Jiva Gopalago. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the three worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Reading from the Nectar of Devotion, and this is chapter, I'm not sure, chapter, I can see in a second here, chapter 31. And this is part 2 of chapter 31. And it's let's see what it is here. No, I don't know. The additional symptoms, ecstatic symptoms. I can't go back and find it because then I'll lose my place on the PDF file. Really hard to find it. But it's the ecstatic symptoms of devotional service. And we're reading from the 1970, copyright 1970, first edition, Nectar of Devotion, and there's a free download at the website krishnapath.org. So this is about the different types of hearts, the grave heart, the gold heart, the heart like a cotton swab, the different types of hearts. So, continue reading about these hearts. To offer another example, a grave, magnanimous heart is compared to a great city, and a soft heart to an insignificant cottage. There may be many lights or even great elephants in the big city, but no one will take particular notice of them. But when such lights or elephants are seen near a small cottage, everyone can distinctly point them out. Hardness of the heart is compared to a lightning bolt, with gold and with shellac. The lightning bolt is very strong, never becomes soft. Similarly, the hearts of those who are engaged in severe austerities and penances do not become very easily softened. The golden heart becomes melted at high temperatures, as in ecstatic love. And the shellac heart is very easily melted in slight temperature. Softness of the heart is compared with honey, butter, and nectar. And the condition of the mind is compared with sunshine. As honey and butter become melted, even in slight sunshine, so soft-hearted persons become easily melted. Nectar, however, is by its nature always liquid, and the hearts of those who are in pure ecstatic love with Krishna are by nature always liquefied, just like nectar. pure devotee of Krishna is always specifically qualified with nectarine qualifications, and sometimes with the qualifications of butter and honey. On the whole, all the different conditions of the heart mentioned above can be melted under certain circumstances, just as a hard diamond sometimes is melted by a combination of certain chemicals. In the Dana Kali Kamodi it is stated, quote, "When love develops in the heart of a devotee, he cannot check the transformation of his sentiments." Oh, this is the summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, and it's translated and presented as a summary study by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When love develops in the heart of a devotee, he cannot check the transformation of his sentiments. It's just like at the rising of the moon, when the ebb tide of the ocean cannot be checked. Immediately there must be movement of high waves." End quote. Although in its natural state the ocean is always very grave and unfathomable, when the moon rises, nothing can check the ocean's agitation. Similarly, those who are pure devotees cannot, on any account, check the movements of their feelings within. And that is the end of Chapter 1. So we'll continue on. It's Chapter 2, Symptoms of Continuous Ecstasy. The continuous ecstasy of love can remain like a powerful king, subduing all temporary manifestations of love, as well as any opposing elements of anger. I'm going to read that again. The continuous ecstasy of love can remain like a powerful king, subduing all temporary manifestations of love, as well as any opposing elements of anger. The continuous ecstasy of love dominates. So if there's some temporary manifestation of love or opposing elements of anger, this powerful king of continuous ecstasy of love subdues them all and remains dominant even when these other manifestations may appear. The continuous ecstasy of love. It can be exhibited directly or indirectly, and thus ecstatic love can be described as direct or indirect. These symptoms of ecstatic love are possible only when one is fully situated in a transcendental position. Direct ecstatic love can be divided into two groups, namely selfish and selfless. Okay, so continuous ecstasy of love is exhibited directly or indirectly. But these symptoms, whether direct or indirect, are possible only when one is fully situated in transcendence, transcendental position. And direct ecstatic love is divided into two groups, selfish and selfless. When non-contradictory symptoms of ecstatic love are distinctly manifest, any contradictory symptoms create a sense of abomination. Contradictory ecstatic love is called selfish. That ecstatic love which can adjust all contradictory or non-contradictory symptoms is called direct selfless love. When non-contradictory symptoms of ecstatic love are distinctly manifest, any contradictory symptoms create a sense of abomination. Contradictory ecstatic love is called selfish. Ecstatic love which can adjust all contradictory and non-contradictory symptoms is called selfless love. These selfless symptoms can again be divided into 5 groups: neutrality, servitude, fraternity, parenthood, and conjugal love. Such ecstatic love assumes a particular mode in contact with different objects of love. Neutrality can be further divided into general, transparent, and peaceful. An attraction for Krishna by the people in general or by children cannot take any specific or satisfactory position. It can be manifest sometimes in trembling of the body, changing of the color of the eyes from red to white, etc., although there is no symptom of any particular affection. Attraction for Krishna by people in general or by children doesn't take any specific position, but it can be seen, it can manifest as trembling of the body and changing the color of the eyes, but there's no symptom of any particular affection. An old man was told by a young man, quote, "Just see how this child, only 3 years old, is so jubilant. Simply by seeing Krishna, he's running so swiftly, making a tumultuous sound. Just see," end quote. This is an instance of neutral, ecstatic love in the heart of a child without any specific subdivision. Due to the different types of attraction for Krishna, there are different varieties of devotees. Their symptoms are manifested transparently, just like jewels. It's said that a great devotee Brahmin would sometimes address the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, and sometimes he would joke with the Lord using different kinds of familiar words. Sometimes he would protect the Lord with a filial affection, and sometimes he would cry out loud to the Lord, addressing him as his beloved, and sometimes he would meditate on the Lord as the Supersoul. This means that the Brahmin expressed his ecstatic loving symptoms in different ways at different times, but in each instance, because of ecstatic love, the Brahmin merged himself in the ocean of happiness and became situated in pure love. Thus he was a transparent medium, like a jewel that shows reality in varying colors according to its own nature. When the great sage Narada was glorifying the pastimes of the Lord with his Veena, the 4 Kumaras, headed by Shaunaka, although merged in the impersonal conception of Brahman, were trembling all over. Another devotee once exclaimed, quote, "Although I can achieve liberation simply by serving the devotees, my mind is still very much anxious to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily complexion is just like a dark cloud," end quote. When a devotee is so anxious to contact the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that can also be accepted as a symptom of neutral love. So the 4 Kumaras, they were at the level of impersonal realization of the Brahman, but when they heard Narada Muni glorifying the pastimes of the Lord and playing his stringed instrument, they began to tremble all over. They showed the signs of trembling. And the Brahmin here a devotee who exclaimed, I can achieve liberation by serving the devotees, but still I want to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that he's so much anxious to contact the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that can be accepted as a symptom of neutral love. Generally, a devotee of Lord Krishna can be placed into one of three groups. One group consists of those who are completely dependent on the merciful affection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another group consists of devotees who are dealing with Krishna on friendly terms. And the third group consists of those who are dealing with Krishna as his superior, with parental affection. These three classes of devotees gradually develop different relationships of transcendental mellow with the Personality of Godhead. So those three types again, those three groups of devotees. The first group are those who are completely dependent on the affection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the second group, they're dealing with Krishna as friends, on friendly terms. And the third group, they are actually Krishna's superiors. They feel superior to Krishna out of parental affection. They have to protect Krishna and help Krishna and like this. These three classes of devotees gradually develop different relationships of transcendental mellow with the Personality of Godhead. When the attraction for Krishna is based only on one particular humor, that's called kevala, or pure state. One in this pure state of devotional service gradually develops the desire to follow in the footsteps of an eternal associate of Krishna. For example, to follow in the footsteps of Rasala, the personal attendant of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, or to follow Krishna's friends like Sridham and Sudam, or to follow Nanda and Yasoda, devotees in parenthood. Ecstatic love for Krishna is never manifested directly with Krishna himself. The devotee has to follow in the footsteps of the eternal associates of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So we're seeing the progression here. When the attraction for Krishna is based on one particular humor, it's called kevala, or pure state. Gradually, devotee develops the desire to follow in the footsteps of an eternal associate of Krishna, either one of Krishna's friends, or maybe his personal attendant, or his mother and father, follow in their footsteps. It says, ecstatic love for Krishna is never manifested directly with Krishna himself. The devotee has to follow in the footsteps of the eternal associates of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So we're beginning that training process by following spiritual master, Krishna's representative. That's the first step. And then from there, in practicing under Krishna's representative, his pure devotee, under his guidance, through their mercy, devotional mood, it develops. Devotional mood develops into a particular mood of service to Krishna. And then from there, the devotee follows in the footsteps of one of Krishna's eternal associates who is perfectly, purely situated in that mood. Either one of the friends of Krishna, or the gopi, one of the gopis, or Krishna's parents, Nanda and Yasoda, and always taking shelter of the devotee of Krishna. You don't go directly to Krishna. When transcendental humors in relationship with Krishna become mixed, for example, when the relationships with Krishna in friendship, servitorship, parental love become mixed together, the result is called mixed humor of flavor. Such mixed transcendental flavors are manifested by such devotees as Uddhava, Bhima, Makara, the personal attendant of Mother Yasoda. So they can be mixed. These different moods can be mixed. Although devotional humors are sometimes found in mixtures, a particular humor is always found to be a prominent and constant factor. Okay, so one humor is prominent, and then there may be little tinges of something else. That prominent humor is to be accepted as the devotee's main relationship with Krishna. For example, Uddhava is in relationship with Krishna as a friend, but in Uddhava's character, a trace of servitude to Krishna is also visible. Such friendship is called friendship in reverence. The friendship typified by Sridham and Sudam, however, is the standard of friendship without any tinge of reverence. The next little section is subtitled Subordinate Ecstatic Love. The devotees who always think of Krishna as a superior are in subordinate ecstatic love. To such a devotee, the concept of inferiority to the Lord is very prominent, and he really takes interest in any other kind of transcendental loving humor with the Lord. They always see Krishna as a superior. In the Mukundamala Stotra compiled by King Kulashekara, one of the prayers says, quote, "My dear Lord, you are the deliverer of living entities from the hellish condition of materialistic life. But that does not matter to me. Whether I am elevated to the heavenly platform or remain on the earthly planet or am dispatched to some hellish planet does not matter to me at all. My only prayer is that at the time of my death, I may simply remember your two beautiful feet, which are just like lotus flowers, fructifying during the autumn season." End quote. And that is for that little section called Subordinate Ecstatic Love. And that prayer of King Kulashekar shows that mood, subordinate ecstatic love. And also Uddhava, who's in relationship with friendship, but it has a little bit of reverence in there, showing Krishna's superiority in the friendship. The next little section is subtitle is Friendship. As far as friendship is concerned, those high-grade devotees who are almost like Krishna are considered to be great authorities in the modes of friendly relations with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On that friendly platform, there are different kinds of laughing and joking conversations. An example of such a friendly relationship with Krishna is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna was once thinking, quote, "Today, while I was engaged in tending the cows in the pasturing ground of Vrindavan, I went to collect some flowers in a beautiful garden. At that time, my friends, the cowherd boys, were unhappy even to tolerate a 2-minute separation from me. And when they found me, there was competition between us as to who would touch the other first with the flowers we had in hand." End quote. Friendship. Laughing, joking conversations. So this was what went on. They had a competition. Who could touch the other first with the flowers? One friend criticized Krishna thus, quote, "My dear Damodar, although you've been defeated by Sridham and have become sufficiently minimized in strength, by a false expression of strength you have somehow covered your shameful condition of defeat." End quote. So it's joking words, laughing and joking. Parenthood or superiority. It's the next little section. When Mother Yasoda heard that Krishna's cows were being forcibly moved by the strong servants of Kamsa, and that the tender cowherd boys were trying to protect their cows, she began to think, quote, "How can I protect these poor boys from the invasion of Kamsa's servants?" End quote. This is an instance of a superior attitude in a devotee. She's thinking that Krishna's needs her help. She needs to protect these. They're just boys, and they need to be protected. As soon as Mother Yasoda found her son Krishna returning from the pasturing ground, she immediately began to pat him, touching her fingers to the cheeks of the Lord. Motherly, paternal superiority. Oh, short little chapter. This is chapter 33. Conjugal affection. Above even the humor of love between Krishna and his parents is the relationship of conjugal love. This is exhibited between the Lord and the young gopis in different ways. Glancing, moving the eyebrows, speaking very sweet words, exchanging smiles. There is a statement in Govinda Vilas to this effect, quote, "Srimati Radharani was looking for Krishna very anxiously and almost disappointedly," end quote. When there is such indirect expression of conjugal love, there's smiling, astonishment, enthusiasm, lamentation, anger, dread, sometimes ghastliness. These 7 exchanges of conjugal love form another state of ecstatic love. In direct relationship of conjugal love, there's laughter, astonishment, chivalry, lamentation, anger, and dread, but there's no ghastliness. These expressions are considered to be the great reservoirs of pleasure. When these 7 kinds of ecstatic loving exchanges are manifest, they attain the status of steadiness by which the taste of conjugal love expands. Indirect. Let's look at the indirect again. The example of indirect is Srimati Radharani was looking for Krishna very anxiously and almost disappointedly. So this is indirect expression of conjugal love. And it can be seen smiling, astonishment, enthusiasm, lamentation, anger, dread, and sometimes ghastliness. He says these 7 exchanges of conjugal love form another state of ecstatic love. And then the direct relationship of conjugal love, there's laughter, astonishment, chivalry, lamentation, anger, and dread, but no ghastliness. And these are considered to be the great reservoirs of pleasure. These are the reservoirs of pleasure. The laughter, astonishment, chivalry, lamentation, anger, and dread. When these 7 kinds of ecstatic loving exchanges are manifested, they attain the status of steadiness by which the taste of conjugal love expands. Next little section, laughter. Oh, he's going to discuss, evidently. Is he going to discuss? Yes. Each of these expressions will be discussed with examples. So this is little subsection is laughter. After he had stolen some curd from the pots of 2 gopis, Krsna told one of his gopi friends, quote, "My dear beautiful girl, I can take oath that I've not stolen even a drop of curd from your pot, but still your friend Radharani is very shamelessly smelling the flavor of my mouth. Kindly forbid her from this devious policy of putting her face near mine." End quote. When Krsna was speaking like this, friends of Radharani could not check their laughter. This is an instance of ecstasy in conjugal love. And I read that again. Krsna stole some curd from the pots of 2 gopis. And he told one of his gopi friends, quote, "My dear beautiful friends, I can take oath. I've not stolen even a drop of curd from your pot. But still your friend Radharani is very shamelessly smelling the flavor of my mouth. Kindly forbid her from this devious policy of putting her face near mine." End quote. So they could not stop, check their laughter. They started laughing. That was very funny. It's an instance of ecstasy, laughter, conjugal love, manifesting in laughter. Next little section, astonishment. Once Brahma was watching all the cows and cowherd boys dressed in yellow garments and decorated with valuable jewels. The boys were expanding their forearms and were being worshipped by many hundreds of other Brahmas. All the cowherd boys began to express their joyfulness for being with Krsna, the Supreme Brahman. At that time, Brahma showed his astonishment by exclaiming, quote, "What am I seeing here?" End quote. This is an instance of astonishment in ecstatic love. It certainly must have been astonishing to see that. Astonishment. That's an interesting word. I want to look in the dictionary what astonishment is. It's fun to do that from time to time. Look up these different words. Just to get some different angles on it. Let's see what the dictionary, some of the synonyms. Surprise, amazement, stupefaction, incredulity, disbelief, awe, wonder, speechlessness. I think we get the idea. Amazement, surprise, unbelievable. Okay, so that's astonishment. And that's what Lord Brahma experienced when he saw all the cows and cowherd boys manifesting as Vishnu forms, and those Vishnu forms being worshipped by many hundreds of other Brahmas. Was astonishment. The next little section is chivalry. On the bank of the Yamuna once there was the crackling sound of dry leaves, giggling from the cowherd boys, and thundering from the sky. Sridham was tightening his belt to fight with Krsna, the conqueror of the demon Aga. This is an instance of chivalry and ecstatic love. I want to look at the word chivalry too. We think we know what these words mean, but we don't really until kind of uncover them here. There's not much on chivalry per se, except that a medieval knightly system with religious, moral, and social code. Oh, here's some other things. Gallantry, code of conduct. Courtly love. Gallantry, code of conduct. Those kind of get the idea on that. Chivalry. The next little section, lamentation. In the 10th canto, 7th chapter, 22nd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a description of Krishna's being taken away by the whirlwind demon Trinavarta. As Krishna was being thus carried up into the sky, all the gopis began to cry aloud. They approached Mother Yasoda, stating that they could not find the son of Nanda. He had been taken away by a whirlwind. This is an instance of lamentation and ecstatic love. Yeah, so lamentation means feeling bad because you've lost something. Lamenting. You had something and it was lost. So they're thinking Krishna is now lost, been taken away by the whirlwind. When Krishna was fighting with Kaliya, Mother Yasoda exclaimed, quote, Krishna is now entrapped within the hoods of the Kaliya snake, and yet I'm not tattered to pieces? So I must admit how wonderful is the preserving power of this material body. End quote. This is another instance of lamentation and ecstatic love. That was how she was feeling. How can I still be alive when Krishna's in this coils of this Kaliya serpent and I'm still alive? So she was feeling so much distress, so much lamentation that she had lost Krishna to the coils, wrapped in the coils of the snake. Next little section, anger. When Kutila, the sister of Abhimanyu, Abhimanyu is formally, in a formal way, married to Radharani. So that's Radharani's husband, Abhimanyu. And his sister Kutila is being talked about here. So when Kutila, the sister of Abhimanyu, Radharani's husband, saw Krishna wearing a necklace, she could understand that the jeweled ornament had been given to him by Radharani. She therefore became absorbed in anger, began to move her eyebrows, expressing her anger in ecstatic love. She was angry at Krishna because of her brother's wife. Krishna was messing with her brother's wife. She was very angry at Krishna. But she's a devotee of Krishna. She's part of Krishna's pastimes. Her part to play is the wife of Abhimanyu. That's her part to play. Her part is to become angry at Krishna for doing that naughty thing. Accepting a necklace from Abhimanyu's wife. Her part to play is to become angry at Krishna. So it's anger and ecstatic love. Ghastliness, next little section. There's a statement by Jamunacharya to the effect, quote, since I've begun to enjoy these transcendental exchanges of love, which are always newer and newer, whenever I remember the pleasure of past sex life, my lips curl, I wish to spit on the idea. End quote. This is an instance of ecstatic love in ghastliness. so we can measure how how much advancement we're making in our devotional service by how much we're not attracted to material sense gratification, specifically sex. So Jamunacharya, we'll read that again. He's obviously very advanced. His lips curl and he wants to spit when he thinks about his past attempts to try to enjoy through the material senses. Since I have begun to enjoy these transcendental exchanges of love, which are always newer and newer, whenever I remember the pleasure of past sex life, my lips curl and I wish to spit on the idea. End quote. Ecstatic love and ghastliness. The next little section, dread. An old devotee said, quote, "My dear Lord, when we are away from you, we become so anxious to see you again, and there is great misery in our lives. But then, when we do see you, there immediately comes the fear of separation. Under the circumstances, both when we see you and when we do not see you, we're subjected to different kinds of tribulation." End quote. Oh boy. Hare Krishna. Dread. So, when they're away from Krishna, they're feeling awful. They want to see Krishna. And when they're with Krishna, they're becoming fearful that Krishna's going to go, and then they're going to be in separation. So this is dread. I want to look at this word also. It's one of those words that, oh yeah, I know what it means. But let's just expand it out a little bit and see what the synonyms are. It's always good to see that. Dread. Anticipate with great apprehension or fear. Anticipate. Be afraid of, worry about, be anxious about, have forebodings, concern, disquiet, unease, angst. Nice. Well, to be able to expand it out like that, the idea of anticipating something, dreading it. It may not actually be there, but just the thought of it, dreadful. So that's an instance of contradictory mixture of ecstatic love for Krishna. Such ecstatic love is palatable, and expert critics have compared such ecstatic love with a mixture of curd, sugar candy, and a little black pepper. The combined taste is very palatable. And away from Krishna, so anxious to see him again, and then when they're with Krishna, they're feeling dread because they're anticipating that he's going to leave again. And that's compared to curd, sugar candy, and a little black pepper. It'd be interesting to make that prep. So you make that prep. Curd, sugar candy, and a little black pepper. Make a little sweet for Krishna. Oh boy, these are short chapters. Well, let's go for 34. And this one's called The Nectar of Devotion. The particular type of ecstatic loving sentiment that develops within the heart of a particular devotee is considered to be vibhava. Okay, so this is refining these different moods down. And the particular type that a devotee develops is vibhava. The resulting manifestations, such as moving the eyebrows, fear, astonishment, smiling, which have been explained herein before, are called anubhava. Okay, the particular ecstatic sentiment is vibhava, and the manifestations of that can be seen in eyebrows, moving the eyebrows, fear, astonishment, and smiling. And that's called anubhava. So anubhava is when the symptoms are manifest, you see what they are, and vibhava is the particular sentiment with particular mood. The different causes for developing, anubhava. Vibhava and anubhava. The different causes for developing anubhava and vibhava are called steady ecstasy or sanchari bhava. The causes for developing vibhava and anubhava is called sanchari bhava. What causes it? Okay, so there's like 3 levels. There's what's causing it, sanchari bhava, and then there's the particular sentiment, that's vibhava, and then the manifestation of it comes in different ways, and that's anubhava. So the cause, and then the sentiment that is developed, and then how it manifests. Whenever there is a recitation of poetry or a dramatic play on the different pastimes of Krishna, the audience develops different kinds of transcendental loving service for the Lord. They enjoy different types of vibhava, anubhava, and sanchari bhava. No one, while remaining on the material platform, should discuss these different descriptions of bhava and anubhava by quoting different statements of transcendental literatures. Such manifestations are displays of the transcendental pleasure potency of the Lord. One should simply try to understand that on the spiritual platform there are many varieties of reciprocal love. Such loving exchanges should never be considered to be material. Prabhupada's giving a little warning here that we're not talking about something material. This is completely transcendental. Such loving exchanges should never be considered to be material. In the Mahabharata, Udyama Parva, it is warned that things which are inconceivable should not be subjected to arguments. Actually, the transactions of the spiritual world are inconceivable to us in our present state of life. Great liberated souls like Rupa Goswami and others have tried to give us some hints of transcendental activities in the spiritual world, but on the whole, these transactions will remain inconceivable to us at the present moment. Yeah, it's saying, the personality of Godhead is not impersonal. So we get a little hint here of how there are these loving exchanges going on, the personal moods of loving exchange. But they remain beyond our being able to conceive of them at the present moment. This can only be understood by the pure souls because they enter into these moods. This is realized knowledge. We can hear about it and keep heading in that direction and keep hearing about it and engage in devotional service, but not understood mental activity cannot perceive what's being discussed here. understanding the exchanges of transcendental loving service with Krishna is possible only when one is actually in touch with the pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. Only by undivided devotional service can I be understood. But we can hear about it and keep heading in that direction. And that's what Prabhupada says Rupa Goswami's doing here. He's telling us a little bit. It's like an advertisement. Step right this way. But it's really only possible when one's actually in touch with the pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. In this connection, Sri Rupa Goswami gives an example of the clouds in the sky. Okay, we're going to get an example here, help us understand a little more. The clouds in the sky arise from the ocean. When the clouds become water again and fall to the ground, they glide back to the ocean. Similarly, the pleasure potency of Krishna is compared with the ocean. The pure devotee is the pleasure-possessing cloud. When he is filled with transcendental loving service, then he can bestow his mercy as a downpour of rain, and the pleasure potency returns to the ocean of Krishna. Wow, it's really beautiful. Anyone can understand the cloud takes the moisture, forms by taking the moisture from the ocean. And when the cloud becomes saturated with that devotion, it pours back down into the ocean. So pure devotee here is compared to that cloud, the pleasure-possessing cloud, pleasure potency, filled with transcendental loving service. And he bestows his mercy as a downpour of rain. And that pleasure potency returns to the ocean of Krishna. Bestows his mercy as a downpour of rain. We sing that song, Samsara Dava Nanalita Loka, extinguishing the fire of material existence. That's what that means. Downpour of mercy. And the pleasure potency returns to the ocean of Krishna. It's interesting because when the cloud pours its water down, it doesn't just pour it on the ocean. The cloud may travel a little bit and pour it on the land and on the mountains. And then it forms into rivers and returns to the ocean. It nourishes all the living entities, gain sustenance from that downpour. And it ultimately returns to Krishna, returns to the ocean. Next little section, direct and indirect attraction for Krishna. Well, maybe we'll save that for next time because it's not such a little section. We'll just keep it there. Hare Krishna.